But I think the biggest brush with process was when I built an e-commerce store in Indonesia, because that's what you do when you're 25.
Random.
The idea of staying in a stable job scared me more than leaving.
It took me a very long time to get my name out in the I mean, well, comparatively much longer because I've just been here for 19 months.
Well, I was going to say, you've only been here for 19 months, but not that very long. So hello and welcome to another She's the Boss interview. If you've been following the series, you know I've been speaking to women business owners, entrepreneurs and female leaders, and I've really been enjoying the program so far. If you haven't already done so, please make sure that you click that subscribe button so that you're the first to know when I release a new video. And also, I really want some engagement. If you've been enjoying these videos, if you like, or if anything resonates with you in today's conversation, please make sure that you write a comment, click like, share amongst your network. So today, I'm really happy to welcome Jacqueline Hinds. Thank you for joining me, Jacqueline.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me.
And I am not going to try and explain what your official title is because I know you have many, so I'm going to leave that to you. Please share with everyone, what is it that you do?
Okay, thank you, Daniela. My name's Jacqueline Hinds. I'm the founder of Wilson Heinz Consulting, but I'm also the chair and founder of the Society of Emotional Intelligence here in the UK, board chair and international liaison for the mothership Society of Emotional Intelligence in the US. So I wear many hats. My background is emotional intelligence, and I'm a coach and a leadership consultant.
That sounds like a busy life that you lead. The first question, I'm going to go back to tell me more about that, but the first question is, which I always think when people give these long lists of stuff that they do, how do you fit it all in?
I compartmentalize a lot of things. When I do training, we always do talk about the SMART objectives. So you have to be the physician that heals yourself and use the actual tools that you're disseminating to other people. So I actually use a lot of SMART objectives in a lot of the initiatives that I do. So they're overlapping, but I get to actually complete all of them in a reasonable time scale. So I'm quite happy. I do burn the cat. Yeah. I do burn the
management. Then I'm going to assume.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so going back, emotional intelligence clearly is something very important to you because all of the hats that you wear kind of center back to that. Where did your interest in AI come from?
I suppose if I go back to the beginning, I've realized that I've been doing emotional intelligence for over 30 years. So all the time that I've been within the leadership learning and training and development arena, I've been using emotional intelligence by way of training, coaching, and upskilling individuals. And it wasn't until 2016 that it all came together. You know, prior to that, I did IT training, I did systems training, and I did soft skills HR, which is very rare, but I could jump into any one. And within each of those, whether it's change management, whether it's stress management, whether it's conflict resolution, emotional intelligence was a thread that actually sort of bound all of them together. I went to the States to get licensed as a certified emotional intelligence coach and facilitator for the EQI 2.0. And it wasn't until then that everything crystallized. It was like, oh my goodness. You know, you've got that aha moment where everything fits. So rather than telling people, yes, I do change management, stress management, it's like I do emotional intelligence. Mm-hmm. And it's in everything that we do. So that is one of my taglines that I use. So I can work within any industry. I'm not aligned to anyone because it's in everything.
Mm-hmm. And then what gave you the impetus to then found Wilson Heinz Consultancy?
Oh, well, what happened was I wanted to own my own business for the longest time. And if I go way, way back to when I first came to London to work, I worked in a bank. I was doing typing. And I thought, right, okay, I want to do something there, secretarial services. But that kind of like fell on its face in that respect because I wasn't ready. Then in 2011, when I joined Whipps Cross Hospital in the NHS, which was then turning into Barts Health, I decided that I really wanted to sort of like branch out because I've got all of these skills and I would have to jump into each one dependent on the role that I was in. So what I found was that I'd have to shelve some of my roles in order to bring the others forward. And I didn't like that because I like to keep all my skills, you know, on top form. Mm-hmm. So I decided that I wanted to do it then, but it still didn't come to fruition. And what I started doing was pieces of consultancy work just to sort of sharpen my teeth. But I think for me, the actual leap of faith came when I spent a year in the Middle East in 2015. And I got made redundant from the hospital out there because they weren't ready to open yet. And they were just looking at clinical projects, and I'm not clinical. So I said, look, I'm quite happy to come back. Thank you for the opportunity. It was a brilliant experience. And then I thought about, what am I going to come back to? And I just left that, what I call the hamster wheel, and it's no disrespect to anyone. For me, the hamster wheel was me being a mother, having to work full time, leave work on time, rush to my son's school to pick him up, you know, before after school closed, and get him home, fed, homework, all of that. And it was day in, day out. So for me, I didn't want to go back into that. So I said, look, I've got no job to go back to as yet, so I'm going to start. So whereas most people would have a part-time role or reduce their hours and then start their business, I just went cold turkey and just jumped in it and just started it. And Wilson Heinz, it's quite a unique name. It's my maiden name and my married name. And I think it's got a nice ring to it. So I thought it stuck. Because the first name that I thought of, you know, feeling empowered and wanting to do the best that I can for my target audience, I thought of Phoenix Consulting, you know, Phoenix rising up from the ashes, you know, and I went on to HMRC just to look for the name, and it was like everybody else had that same dream. So that one went down in flames. So Wilson Heinz Consulting, you know, was born then. Mm-hmm.
So I have two questions. Two totally different ones, and anybody that watches these videos often knows that I come up with all these questions and I'm like, I need to remember which one's which. So one of the questions, and quite a few of the women that I've interviewed have lived abroad, and I've never lived abroad. And the more I have these conversations, the more I'm thinking, oh gosh, I've missed out on like a huge development opportunity in my life. But as a Black woman specifically, moving to somewhere that was the Middle East, was it Doha?
I was in Doha in Qatar. Yeah.
And for me as a Black woman, one of my fears of traveling to certain places is, how am I going to be received? How did you have that concern? How were you received? Did you feel welcomed there? So that's the first question, so let's stick a pin on that. And then the second question, you said obviously when you left and you came and now is the time to do it, were you afraid? So it's two questions around fear, I guess.
Answer to the first question, how was I received as a Black woman? I actually was received quite well. My boss was the director for national development within the hospital, and she was a Qatari national. I was the only expat in the team. Everybody else was Qatari. So I got immersed into their culture. I got embraced into their culture. I had a fantastic time. I integrated with other people in the departments from all over the world, Australia, Canada, South Africa. And, you know, being one of very few Black people in the role that I was doing, I didn't feel uncomfortable. I didn't feel fearful. I just felt thankful that I had the opportunity, but also to be able to actually interact with other people to gain their perspective from what they were doing. you know, in their line of work as well. In answer to the second question, the fear of going there, I think it was quite frightening thinking about leaving my family behind, because I actually left my 2 children and my husband behind, and went there for the year. It wasn't actually a year's contract. It was an open contract, so I could have stayed had things been different. But I think after the year and the way how the economic climate was changing, and wanting to come back and sort of be around my son, because he's just started secondary school. So for me, that role, that responsibility as a mother and as a caregiver was quite strong. The experience was brilliant. And it was a case of feel the fear and do it anyway. I wouldn't have gone if my family had said, no, we need you here. It would have been a brilliant opportunity that I'd missed. But my husband said, no, go do it. My daughter said, no, go do it. My son didn't have a choice because I didn't ask him. But my daughter's 26. So, you know, while I was away, she was little mummy. So her and hers and my husband's approval, and I got it. So I felt anxious because I missed my family, but the thought of going into a new environment and learning new things, it was just, you know, why wouldn't you pass it up?
Yeah. No, I think, and I've been doing these interviews for probably about 10 months now, and the more I have these discussions, the more I realize that as much as I always say to the clients that I work with, feel the fear and do it anyway, and don't let fear stop you, I realize that actually I do, in terms of traveling, or I guess working abroad or anything like that, I do often let the fear of racism stop me from, I guess, exploring opportunities. So it's always interesting to hear other people that haven't, and hearing their experiences. So in terms of starting Wilson Heinz, when you came back, were you immediately supported by everyone? Because obviously you just gone and done this really big and exciting thing, and then you're coming back and now you want to do something else big and exciting. Did people support you, or was it a matter of, well, she's going to do it anyway, so just kind of leave her to it?
Well, I did say that I didn't want to go back into full-time work, and my husband said, look, it's up to you. You know, whatever you want to do, I'll support you.
Your husband is amazing. Can we
he's a wonderful guy.
A supportive husband, please? Because not that I don't have one, I do have a supportive husband. I know if I said I'm going to go and travel and work somewhere for a year, he would not be having that at all. So
I think, yeah, no, my husband, he knows me really well. After nearly 30 years, he would get to sort of like know the kind of person that I am, strength of character, but also it's about painting the bigger picture. It's not the here and now. So a lot of the things that I do, I'll sit down and I'll sort of say to him, this is what I'm thinking of doing. What do you think? And he'll say, you know, not sure. Or, you know, why do you want to do that? And I'll explain. It's like, oh, okay, then, yeah, that's fine. I haven't dropped the bombshell about Sri Lanka yet, but that's coming.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah, no, I've been approached to do some work on emotional intelligence, emotional and cultural intelligence for a lady in Sri Lanka, and it's around cyber security. So it's more about getting women into cyber security and empowering them to sort of like feel the fear and do it, even though it's a male-dominated environment. So, you know, that's another initiative that, but it's not for a year or anything like that. It's actually for a boot camp. Oh. So it's just for a small period of time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but yeah, he is supportive.
And not to make this too personal, but I've done a video about the importance of having a supportive partner, whether that be a husband, boyfriend, whatever it is, in pursuing entrepreneurial aspirations. And also I've done another video about how to cope when you don't have a supportive partner or husband when you're pursuing an entrepreneurial career. How important do you think it is? And what advice would you give to somebody that is potentially wanting to start a business and maybe doesn't have a a supportive partner?
It's really important to have somebody in your camp, you know, supporting you, whether it's financially, emotionally, you know, in any way, shape or form that you can get, because it is a lonely road you have to travel. You know, where you're used to being in a working environment, you've got other people around you, you've got the day-to-day tasks. When you're actually working for yourself, it's just you most of the time, and you don't necessarily have an office space that you're renting or where you can go, you know, each day and you can interact with other people. So being in a relationship where you can sort of bounce ideas is quite important. And I think also you need to have a network of friends, not necessarily in their own business. If you've got other people who are in their own business as well, that you call friends, that you can tap into, you can sit down and have those, you know, meaningful conversations about what's it like. So it's not a case of, yeah, it's fabulous, blah, blah, blah. It's not. Lift up the duvet and let them see what's going underneath, because it's not all, you know, fun and games. I've been putting the hours in, and my husband's saying, you know, 5 o'clock in the morning, oh, you're going to sleep now? It's like, yep, good night. Like, okay, I'm getting up for work. So, you know, nice seeing you. Nice speaking to you. So it's not a 9-to-5 job. And, you know, before you actually decide to go in, think about why you want to do it. Why you want to do it. What benefit are you going to get out of it? What benefit are other people going to get out of it? Who around you is your supporting network, where if things kind of fall by the wayside, you've got a shoulder to cry on, you've got somebody that you can speak to about your fears, your goals, your aspirations. It's really important. And if you've got a partner, they have to have an element of that within them in order to sort of like keep you going. And I remember days where I was starting out and I was burning the midnight oil, and my husband had gone to bed and he knew I was down here sort of working away, and he would come down and sort of go and get a drink, and then he'll make me a hot drink and just put it down. And it's like, oh, thank you so much. Because he knows that when you're in the zone, you don't think about those things.
Yeah, and you don't want to stop. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you know, it's about taking a breather, but also recognizing that you're not an island, you need other people. Mm-hmm. So it's about choosing the right people on your outer circle, but those that are close to you, sit down and just discuss it with them, get their views, their ideas, because not all partners are supportive, because they think that they're losing you. Mm-hmm. You know, in a sense, because you'll be plowing a lot of your attention into your business initially. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's what I would say, you know, sit down and talk to them, get their ideas, get their views, or get them on board. Simple as that.
Yeah, as I say, when because I'm on my 3rd business now, and when I was approaching my husband the 3rd time, said, look, I'm doing this again. Yeah. I'm going to be honest, he wasn't all for it, to be honest. And so I did what I do as an organizer and as a consultant. I put together a strategy and a plan, a timeline, showed the revenues that could be generated, and actually it wasn't just, look, I want to start a business because I want to start a business. It's, I want to start a business. This is how I'm going to do it. This is what's going to happen then, and broke it down that way, and that helped him to understand a little bit better than just, I want to do this, let me do this. And then that brought him on board very quickly. So yeah, I definitely would agree with also having a network outside of your partners. But I read somewhere recently that said, well, there was 2 things. The person that you choose to marry as an entrepreneur has a direct impact on the success of your business, which I thought was quite an interesting statement. And then another one was something around the person who you choose as your life partner must be invested in your entrepreneurial aspirations. So two quite interesting things that relate to what we just spoke about. So to change the topic completely, whilst you were working, so you was in working your 9 to 5, what would you say are some of the most significant lessons that you learned that have then helped or subsequently helped you in business?
I think working in a 9-to-5 job, you pack everything in the one day. And sometimes you don't get time to stop and think about what you're doing because you're just going through the to-do list. I suppose I can only speak for myself in the kind of work that I was doing. So I was running a training center, I was running programs. So I may, any one day, I may be training a group of clinical and non-clinical staff. Then I may leave that, have a little bit of a break or no break sometimes, and go straight into a coaching session. And then I'd be on my way back thinking, yes, I need to go and get something to eat. Then somebody would either call me and say, can I come and see you? Or I'd be on my way to the canteen and then somebody would stop me and say, oh, I need to speak to you. So there the time goes. But for me, it's about reserving that time and space for you. You have to have that me time for you. It's important. That space where you can stop and think about what needs to be done, what's essential, what's nice, what's in the future, and prioritize the things that you need to do. And at work, you do get to prioritize your things if you're administrative minded. I've had to be in the past because I didn't have an assistant all the time. But I used to sort of like say, right, okay, which are the most critical things that I need to do? So I've adopted that principle in my business. Mm-hmm. So transferring that over is invaluable because otherwise you'll be all over the place. And diary management is one of the key things, because you could be out and not have your diary with you, and you meet somebody and say, oh, I need to speak to you about an initiative, and you think, yes, oh, are you free this day? Yes, I'm free this day. And then you go back and think, oops, I'm not.
I really struggle with diary management. I have 2 phone diaries. So I've got two phones and a diary in each phone. And I still sometimes end up double booking, and I don't understand. Like, I need an assistant. I am somebody that definitely needs my diary, because I'm just, this morning I have your interview booked in. I also booked somebody else in at the exact same time and didn't realize until Monday. And I have no clue how I did it. Wow. Luckily I worked it out before the moment, but no matter how, I'm very good at time management and getting things done in time and time blocking. I'm very good at that. But for some reason, I just don't seem to be very good at keeping track of where I'm supposed to be and who I'm supposed to be speaking to and when.
Right. Okay, so that's a little note for you.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
When you moving from work into business, something that a lot of clients ask me is, how did you get your first client? And I know that everybody's story is very different. How did you get your first client?
Oh, wow. Yeah, my very first client. As I said, I worked at the NHS, I worked at Barts, and my very first client was somebody who I worked quite closely with. And before I left Barts and went to the Middle East, we'd been sort of like supporting each other. I was running a women's development program at the time, and she actually attended the program, and I said, look, just to sort of like get an overview of how I do the training and how I facilitate the discussions and things like that, why don't you come and sort of like on the next program and assist me? So we started sort of like working together on a couple of the programs, and she actually sort of did a lot more than assisting. She did a little bit of facilitating as well, and she went on to head up her own training team in a hospital. So when I came back from the Middle East, we were always in contact, and I was thinking, wow, you know, I like being in business, but I like being paid too, you know. That would be handy. We were just speaking one day, and I said to her, look, I'm available to do anything, you know, whether it's coaching, whether it's training. And she so happened to have a slot where they needed some mandatory training for clinical and non-clinical staff, which is what I did. Mm-hmm. And that's where it started. That's where it started. So that kind of got me on my feet. And once you actually get onto the platform, it's easier for you to pivot and showcase what you're doing. So things have started to sort of like move from there. So that was my very, very first, and I'm eternally grateful. I'm still doing work with them. So, you know, it just shows that when somebody takes a chance or they know what you're capable of doing and they give you that opportunity, it flourishes and it brings forth good fruits.
Yeah.
So
I think also the importance of relationship management and
absolutely
nurturing relationships, and that's something that I always say to my clients. Once you decide that you're going into business, to announce that you're in business, because sometimes people say, "Oh, I'm in business," and then they don't really tell anyone. So they're beavering away at home saying, "Oh, I need to find clients. I need to find clients," but who have you told that you're in business? So actually, I always suggest, if you're on LinkedIn, put on LinkedIn, "Look, I'm in business. This is what I do. If you're interested, get in touch." But or in addition to that, like what you've done, if you've got existing contacts, call people and tell them. And that's obviously worked very well for you.
It has its hits and misses, though. Don't get me wrong, because why would anybody invest in me? Yes, anybody can do what I do, but what I say is they don't do it like me. I've got my own. I've got my own unique style, and you know, putting it out there, having a great, you know, profile on LinkedIn. What you want is people to buy into you, and some people, even though they know that you're good for it, there's always that little reservation, you know, or they want it for nothing. And it's like, look, put yourself in my shoes. Come on, I've got bills to pay as well. Yeah. So it's balancing that out, and you're not going to be flavor for everyone, but you're going to be flavor for a lot of people. So it's, you know, don't get disheartened, but keep plugging away. Yeah.
So kind of to follow on from that, I know myself, from starting my first business, I've had some pretty interesting experiences with people that don't want to pay, or that don't take me seriously because I'm a woman or because of my age. Because when I started my business, I was 22. So I had like the triple, I don't remember what there's a name for it, but age, race, and gender. And I came across some pretty mean people at times, and I worked out how to, I guess, overcome those and not let it affect or impact my confidence too heavily. But I know that for women in business specifically, sexism is a big deal. Has there been anyone, and obviously no names, has there been any experiences, probably the better way of phrasing it, where you have felt that people haven't taken you seriously because you're a woman, and how have you overcome or combated that?
Interesting question, and it's a really good and relevant one. I've got one experience in the Middle East, and one, you know, there's a couple in sort of like in the UK and all the different organizations that I've worked in. But I think for me, the most significant, and I think it's the most recent one that springs to mind, is the one in the Middle East. And it was a gentleman. Because the hospital and the departments, they weren't fully functional, so they would have a director or a manager, and they'd have their support staff. And because of the role that I was in, I was an HR team leader. So I was in charge of the clinical graduates that came in. And these graduates, they would be placed within the different departments. And I was working through and designing some mentoring literature and a workshop for the graduates, so that it was part of their upskill. And one day, one of the managers in another department came and stood standing over me at my desk, which was quite intimidating, you know, but I thought, okay, looking up, it's like, what can I do for you? And I'd written something about the manager as a mentor, and he just launched out and said, the manager can't be a mentor. What you've written is not true. And I said, no, the manager can be a mentor. And he was standing there, and we were in an open plan office, and I just kept calm, because you know, when you know your stuff, you know your stuff. And what I'd written was factual. It wasn't anything that I just plucked out of the air. And these individuals, they needed the manager to mentor them. And he said, no, you're wrong, and I disagree with it. And I said, look, let's agree to disagree. I'll give you a scenario. And I just painted the picture that the hospital wasn't fully functional. You're in a department. Here's a scenario. You've got a director, a manager, and a coordinator. I said, you've just been assigned an associate, one of the graduates that have come in. Who's going to mentor them? It can't be the director. He's too senior. It can't be the coordinator. She's too junior. Therefore, it has to be the manager, because he needs to be the mentor and he's going to be there. And he didn't want to accept it. And I think his voice carried the most, because I was speaking quite calmly. I didn't feel intimidated because he was standing over me. I felt more annoyed, because had he gone on to Forbes like I did, he would have found the article by Forbes, the manager as a mentor. And just to sort of prove a point, I actually posted it on LinkedIn. And so it was like, I didn't have to go back and say, see, it was all there. And I think that for me was quite sexist in a way, because he didn't treat the male employees the same way. He spoke to them differently, and I was one of the more senior women, and I'm a woman of color as well, so therefore it has other connotations. But you know, for me, it was more about his approach to me, and the fact that he was directly attacking me on something that we know, widespread. So after that, you know, I was still the same person, polite and everything, but he didn't approach me again. He didn't approach me again in that respect all the time that I was there. But I found it quite annoying and also intriguing, because I wanted to know what had driven him to actually come and confront me like that, when, you know, what I'd written, it wasn't actually for him. So, you know, loads of questions spring to mind in that respect. But, you know, what I tend to do is, in situations like that, I tend to forgive him so I can move on. Yeah, I'll speak to him, hi, morning, you know, whether he feels the same way or not, I leave that with him. But I will always be the person that I am and not take it personally unless somebody attacks me personally. Yeah, but
I think that's a very valuable lesson to learn, and it's something that I have really, really struggled with, because I was raised that if somebody attacks or disrespects you in any sort of way, then you fight. Not necessarily physically fight, obviously, but you respond accordingly. And in business, that's not an acceptable way of operating, and it's something that if you're going into business, you have to, I guess, understand that you are going to meet people that aren't going to necessarily like you, that might not support you, that might want to be combative for no other reason than just because they feel like it. And it is very important. Resilience, I think, is a hugely important thing to possess as a woman in business, as anyone in business, but as a woman in business in particular. And I think that you clearly demonstrated that you've kind of mastered it, because you're able to forgive. I'm still trying to get to that point. I'm still trying to get to the point of not taking it seriously. I'm taking it personally, sorry. I don't think I'm there yet, but I have worked out how to pretend that I have. So let's say if you keep pretending something, after a while it becomes a reality. But I have I don't have a very good poker face. So, so internally, I think I'm doing a good job. Like, I'm going to show that I'm okay, it's fine. But externally, everyone, what's wrong with her? She's clearly got a problem. So the next stage is to get the poker face in line. And I think for any woman going into business or in business, that is definitely something you are going to encounter, to learn how to have tools to manage that.
Yeah, you'll pick up many tools. One of them, I mean, when you say the poker face, when I was a Springboard women's development trainer, licensed, and one of the techniques that I used to share with the women is the act as if. And that is the mask that you wear. So act as if it's not bothering you. Act as if you're not affected by it. And it does take time, but you can master it. If you think about, I'll post this out. If you think about, you want to buy a dress or a jacket or a suit, you go into your favorite shop and you see 3 pieces of clothing that you think, oh, I want these. You try them on. And then there's one in particular in a couple of colors and you think, I like this style, it suits me. So you try it on. You try it on, you think, let me try something else. Try on something else, and then you take it off and you think, oh, let me go back to that color again. And you put it on. That's what it's like. It's like putting on a garment, and after a while you will keep it on and it will become part of who you are. So with me, when somebody says anything, I don't react straight away. And I suppose that's me tapping into my emotional intelligence as well, because I just think, is it worth me bothering? Is it not? There's ways that you can deal with situations that are uncomfortable, unsavory, and quite devastating as well. And I learned that very early on working in the corporate world. You know, I remember clearly somebody, you know, a manager saying something to me, and it was really hurtful. And I just held it together, made my way up to one of the top floors where I knew that nobody was up there, went into the toilet, bawled my eyes out, because I was thinking, why? You know, what was it necessary? You know, and washed my face with cold water. After a while, came back down, composed. You know, so when the manager came again, I said, oh, right, okay, as if nothing ever happened. And when you start doing that, it's not that you become hardened, because you still have that soft exterior, but you've got it shielded for a purpose. So you wear your armor for a purpose, not because you're going into battle, but it's really to safeguard your heart and your emotions. So it's a tool and a technique that it should be in everybody's toolkit, but you need to sort of nurture it and exercise it to actually really get it to meld in with who you are.
To go from a somewhat negative topic to something more positive, what would you say has been the greatest part of running your business and doing what you do?
I think the greatest part for me is meeting and interacting and showcasing to individuals from different walks of life, different industry groups, and collaborating as well with them. So it's not just one area. Although I grew up in the corporate world, I was never aligned to any one industry. So for me, it's been a bit of a free spirit. So in business, collaborating, talking to, working with people from different industry areas has been really rewarding, and it's been really empowering as well, because it actually shows that what I do in emotional intelligence is in everything. So it's not just aligned to any one industry or office arena, it's across the board. So for me, that has been really, really rewarding, being able to interact with others and being able to actually provide a solution or work with them on an initiative that is quite seamless.
What has been the most impactful, what has been the most inspirational or experienced person, situation to your journey thus far?
I'd say the most impactful person was the person that trained me in emotional intelligence. He's still my mentor, Dr. Hank Clemens. He's the founder and CEO of the Society of Emotional Intelligence. So he has been somebody that was there way before I actually decided to get licensed in this. So we were connected on LinkedIn for the longest time, and I was following him. And when I decided to go into business, it was his arena that I actually searched for. You've got people that train emotional intelligence over here in the UK, but there was something about the way he was, his mode, his methodology that I gravitated towards. So that really impacted me and where I am now. And he actually encouraged me to take up the role as chair of a chapter and open it over here. And at first I was thinking, no, I don't want to do it. I'm just starting my business. I can't do two things at once. And when I went over there and met him and we talked and that, it was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. So I've never really looked back since. So I think that was the most impactful and significant point in my career as an independent consultant.
Yeah, I think that having a really good mentor or coach or both, I think is so important. I don't think people, when I say people, I don't think that in the startup phase, in pre-start, people understand how important it is to have a mentor or coach to support you and guide you on that journey. I think by the time people are kind of in the maybe 1 year in of the scale up growth stage, there seems to be a stronger understanding. But I'm still meeting a lot of women who want to start business or who just started businesses, who don't have a mentor, who've never worked with a coach or a consultant, and I find it fascinating because it's so impactful and important. And speaking of that, as an inspiration yourself, would you like to share with us 3 pieces of advice you'd give to that woman who is maybe in work but has dreams of starting her own business and hasn't done so?
Thank you. I think, as you quite rightly said, get yourself a coach. I would encourage that. A coach, a mentor, to help you unlock that potential and the direction that you want to go down. It is really, really important because you have skills and you've got gifts that are quite far-reaching. I mean, myself, I can do quite a few things, but I had to zone into what my passion was. And a coach will actually get you to actually realize your potential and your passion around what you really want to do as a business. So it is quite important. Number 2 is know your USP, your unique selling point. And as I've said, you know, I consider myself multifaceted, and it's not me being boastful. It's just that I can do a lot of things, whether it's IT systems or soft skills HR, and I can design and deliver in each of those arenas. And for me, going into business, it's like I can't sell myself like that. And I had to really zone in on what my core passion was. And my core passion is people development. I'm a people development manager first and foremost, and work from there. So know what your USP is, how you're going to be able to share that with the varied different target audiences. Once you know who you are and what you're about, it's easier for you to actually articulate it to other people when they say, what do you do? You know, how can you help me? Then you can actually disseminate it in a way that's in bite-sized chunks that they think, okay, yeah. Have you got a business card? So that's you at optimum level. And then number 3 is surround yourself with like-minded individuals and a support network, whether it's sisters at the table, whether it's a group that you're aligned to, whether it's a network that you're aligned to. But surround yourself with like-minded individuals that you can share your, you know, hopes, your dreams, your fears, you know, your setbacks with, and they can actually guide you through. These are the kind of tools and resources I think help an individual decide which way they want to go and how they're going to go about doing it. And also, if you get the chance to shadow somebody on the job, that's, you know, invaluable, you know, because then they're actually showing you warts and all what a typical day in their working life is. And not many people want to do that. That's more in the working environment. But if you can find somebody who's willing to allow you to shadow them on a particular day or for a particular period of time, then you're very lucky indeed, because normally those are aligned to programs that are, you know, in organizations, part of a development platform for individuals. So those are the three things that I would say: get a coach, know your USP, and surround yourself with people who are like-minded and can support and elevate you.
Thank you. I think that's really valuable advice, and I would second all of that. Make sure you do it. And if you are looking for a coach, hello, I offer coaching services for pre-start, startup, and scale-up women in business. Thank you so much. I took a lot of value in our conversation, and I'm sure that those watching have. And remember, if you have, please write a comment. We'd love to hear your feedback on how you felt this conversation went and what you've learned from the conversation. And yeah, I would like to say thank you.
Thank you very much.
If people want to find out more about your services, about yourself, where can they go to get that information?
Well, my website is www.wilsonheinzconsulting, all one word, .com. I'm on LinkedIn as well, Jacqueline A. Hinds, Wilson Heinz, and I'm on Twitter at Releasing You. So you can be on all of those platforms.
Thank you so much once again for joining us, and I look forward to speaking with you again in the future. I definitely would like to keep in touch.
Likewise. Thank you very much, Daniela. Take care.